Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I just got done with a pre-tournament registration meeting for the Lake Okeechobee event, which is why I have my jersey on. And I got a lot of questions regarding the Core Tackle Hover Rig, which is a new hook that I've got coming out here, or that is out now at this point. And it's something that is so unique to the market. A lot of people don't fully understand what baits to use with it and how to use it and what situations to use it in. And that's one of the cool things about it. You know, the hover rig is such a new concept, these internally weighted hooks, that there's still a lot that I haven't even figured out with it. This came from the hover strolling technique, where I got sick of losing baits and losing weights, nail weights that I insert into it, that I wanted to come up with a hook that did the same thing, which is what we have here. But what I've found is that there's a whole bunch of baits out there that work great with it. And what I've also found is there's a ton of other baits on the market that I haven't used with it yet and probably work fantastic as well. So I want to walk through some of my favorite baits to use these hover rigs with, and show you some in the water motion so you can see how they're falling, how they're gliding, and how it gives you a completely unique presentation. You can take old school baits like soft stick baits, and instead of getting just a weightless fall out of it, you can still get the shimmy, but you get gliding at the same time. Completely new technique, something we haven't seen before, and I'm so excited to continue to try all different baits with it, and to hear from you guys what baits you're enjoying with, and what baits you're having success with the hover rig. Because like I said, there's a ton of baits out there that I haven't been able to try yet on the hover rig. So I'm going to show you a few of these. I'm going to walk you through 4 of them. I've got 2 that I like to use with the 1/8 ounce size, which is a 3/0 hook. It's meant more for like pitching into cover and kind of giving those fish a different presentation than a traditional Texas rig. And then I've got 2 here that I've got rigged up on the 1/0 3/64 ounce size. That's meant for a much slower fall. You get much better gliding motion. And just because I'm using the 1/8 ounce in some of these does not mean that you cannot use the 3/64 ounce. It's still it's a presentation where you can use all the different weights to get different motions. So let's step into it. First one I'm going to talk about here is one that I've talked about before. This is the Berkley Max-Scent Creature Hog, one of my favorites. I've got in it the 1/8 ounce 3/0 hook. Now with this bait specifically, I wanted to get a bait that I love to pitch that I can use in heavier cover. So what I like to do with this is throw it into laydowns. I work it in a similar fashion, but what I like to do with it is pull it up to the surface. Instead of jigging it like you might a Texas rig when it's inside of the laydowns, I like to pull it up to one of the branches and then just let it free fall back down on slack line, which allows that bait to glide around inside of that log jam or that laydown tree that you're fishing. It gives the slow falling appearance that you don't normally get out of a Texas rig when you're fishing those situations. I also truly love to fish this bait when I'm fishing stair-stepping rocks. So let's say you're in the Ozarks region, you get a lot of those pre-spawn fish that are moving to the backs of creek arms. Maybe they're on channel swing banks, maybe it's bluff ends, that type of big chunk rock where you might think about throwing a jig. This is a great presentation to glide down and around those same areas and just to work nice and slow. One key with the hover rig is not just do you get a great gliding motion, when you pick up on the bait, because you've got a 90-degree jig hook, does not just come straight up. What happens is this bait actually glides almost on the upswing. So when you pull it, the water pushes against the top and that bait will actually dart all over the place. So you get a very erratic motion when you pull it up to the surface as well. So you have action both on the fall as well as when you're rising it back to the surface. So another bait that's similar that I like to use the 1/8 ounce size on is the Berkley Craw. And I've got this one rigged up. This is just a new Craw style bait, but again, it's got a nice thin profile, a big wide sides to it, so you get really good gliding motion out of it. And I want to stress too, guys, that you don't have to have the weed guard. You can take the weed guard off if you're using it in areas where you're not worried about getting snagged. So maybe if you're fishing just down rock, or maybe you're just casting around docks, things that areas that you feel confident you can get your bait back. I would definitely think about throwing the Crash Craw. It's got two little kicker legs, but they're real fine kickers. They do not create big flaps that are going to stall the bait on the glide. So that's one thing that I do like to use with this, is more of your beaver style baits versus your craw style baits, because the flappers will create drag and therefore not let the bait glide as much. So those are two baits that I've had a ton of success on with the 1/8 ounce size. Now I also like to throw the 3/64 with those as well, to get a much slower and further gliding motion. But I do like the 3/0 hook for flipping into heavier cover, just because I need a little bit stouter hook to get those fish out of the cover. Now, when you're talking about the 3/64 size, which is a much smaller profiled hook, if I can get one out here. So these are also all weedless, but they're a much smaller profile, so they really fit well into almost any bait. You guys know I absolutely love the Berkley Max Scent Flatworm, the 4 1/4 inch size. So I'm not going to talk about that. That is definitely one of my favorites. You guys have seen videos I've already done on that. So that is for sure one that I like to throw. But this is other baits that also have great motion. So I'm going to point out a few others. The next one is simply a soft stick worm. This is the Berkley Max Scent General. This thing will just slowly glide, and you will get almost as much gliding distance as you will water depth. Meaning, if you're in 4 foot of water, this thing can glide 4 feet or more to a side. It's pretty impressive how well a soft stick bait glides. At the same time, you still get that shimmying motion that you'd get with a weightless Texas rig or a wacky worm, because it's only a 3/64 ounce weight. It's that light that you still get good motion out of it like you would a weightless stick worm. So I definitely like to throw something like this Max Scent, the General. This is the 5 inch size. That's my preferred size. That works great. And then lastly is one that you may not recognize, but may not have thought of right off the bat. And that's just a Zoom Fluke. This one's got a little bit of a curved tail, which is never good. But what you can see out of this is how well that jig head actually fits in the bait. Now this bait gets great gliding motion, but where I really like this is when you snap it, it darts side to side when you actually snap the rod tip up. So again, you get really good darting motion, but it's an extremely erratic bait when you snap it up higher. So I like to fish this in more open water. The same sort of places I might throw a weightless fluke, but I like to snap it, which gives me a little bit more erratic motion, a different presentation than a normal weightless fluke, and something that's just unique that the fish haven't seen. So if you're fishing schooling fish, or maybe you've got some fish that you're seeing on your graphs in front of you, those types of things are great ways and times to throw a soft jerk bait like this Zoom Fluke. So guys, all I can say is you need to experience this hook. There's nothing like it on the market. Completely unique, very different, and overall just a great new way to create a different form of action in some old baits that really we thought we may have known how to use them, but we're giving it an entirely different presentation. So hopefully you found this video helpful. I would recommend that these are some great baits to try, but if you've got other ones that you've had success with the hover rig, please let us know about it so that we can share it with other people who are using the hover rig. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow for you. I got to get ready for the tournament. It starts in the morning. And yeah, stay tuned.